One Question is designed to give subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown and welcome to One Question. Our guest today is Keith Hackett. Keith is currently the Director of Athletics at Cornell College. Greetings, Keith. Thanks for joining us on One Question today.
Hi, Ty. Great to talk to you. Happy to be a guest today.
Well, I'm happy to have you too. Now, Keith, you spent 4 years as the Director of Athletics at University of Alaska Anchorage, and in total, you've been in athletics for 42 years. I mean, you can almost say that's close to 50,
Yeah,
right?
close to 50.
You've spent time at 9 different institutions. When you were the athletics director at Alaska Anchorage, one year you finished in the top 10 in the Learfield Cup. You always finished in the top 25. And, of course, Anchorage is the biggest school in the state of Alaska.
Yeah.
But, of course, as with most of the country, you face budgetary restrictions. How did you manage the environment there at Alaska Anchorage when your department faced limitations or budgetary restrictions and possible cuts when you were leading the department? How did you keep morale going?
Well, I think, Ty, great question, and I think a lot of what I did was I kept people informed about what was happening, and to be honest, we had great support from the state of Alaska. We got half of our budget, over $5 million a year from the state of Alaska as a subsidy. We had to create the rest of the budget through ticket sales, fundraising, all those different options that we had to work on, and student fees, etc. But one of the cuts, my last year, the amount of the cut we were looking at was there was a potential of having our budget cut by $1.9 million in the state subsidies.
Wow.
And that was a catastrophic. If it were to happen, that would have been a catastrophic cut for the athletic department. And so what we did, we set about with my senior staff, talking about the kind of things we were going to have to do. And we discussed eliminating sports. We discussed the potential of eliminating the Great Alaska Shootout that was such a great tradition in the state of Alaska for many years, along with a number of other things. And Ty, it was going to be tough to get to $1.9 million. And we did actually, while I was there last year, about in October last year, we eliminated our 2 ski programs, men's and women's Nordic and Alpine, and then we eliminated an indoor track program, our indoor track and field program. And, that was only going to get us about $750,000 in reductions, and that was just part of the way. But there was such an uproar in Alaska about eliminating those Nordic sports that were really part of the fabric of Alaska that the president of our system, within 2 or 3 weeks, reversed that decision. We were told we had to do something. So, I think in the end, our ski teams we had excellent skiers here at Alaska. We had lots of kids from different parts of the world. It was a big part of some of the diversity we had in our department. But he reinstated that. And as of right now, what happened was back after the shootout last November, they did announce that the Great Alaska Shootout was being eliminated. And Ty, that was becoming an unbelievable expense to our department because what we didn't make up in ticket revenues, we had to come out of our athletic budget, and that was something that was in place before it got there. So they were actually going to show a savings of between $500,000 and $600,000 by eliminating a shootout, which was a terrible thing. I mean, it's something that the interim athletic director Tim McDiffett and our interim chancellor just thought that was the best decision to make at the time, to make some reductions. But it was a challenge because everybody was concerned about their jobs, about their program position. So once the decision was made by the system president to not eliminate ski, we were just put back on hold. But I'm telling you, it was one of those things where you hear you have to make a $1.9 million reduction. You lose sleep at night, wondering how you're going to impact, especially a program and a department that had been so high performing and had just moved into a $110 million athletic facility. So I think they're still going through the process. You know, Alaska is going through some very tough times. Yeah, they're really. I don't think they've arrived at a budget for this current fiscal year. So there's a lot of challenges in Alaska because of the price of oil, the drop in the price of oil. Because Alaskans they're very dependent on oil. Matter of fact, 90% of the state budget was driven by oil prices. So, you know, when you have that kind of a reduction in the cost or the price of oil per barrel, it plays havoc with your entire system. So we were transparent. We kept people informed, and you know, in all things, we just tried to stay positive as we could. But you do lose sleep some nights when you know you got to look at potentially reducing sports, and that problem still may exist there. But you know, I have different challenges now.
Well, Keith, one last question here about Alaska, and really not necessarily about the school, but about you and your leadership. And, you know, when you talk about cutting sports, actually, you said you cut the sport, right? It was cut for a few weeks there.
Yes, we did. I actually sat in the room and spoke with the teams, and it was probably the toughest thing that I've really ever had to do in my athletic experience. Because, you know, you're changing the lives of 40 student athletes and their coaches, and you know it was a tough thing to do, but it was one of those things that this is what we have to do.
And as the leader, you have to take onus. This is the decision we've come to. Of course, it probably conflicts with some of the core values you have in terms of providing a good leadership, but then also being a steward of the institution's finances. So those two things conflict, and you have to make a decision, I imagine.
Yeah, and you know that was a very, very tough thing. And you know, of course, on the table we were forced to look at all of our sports, including our ice hockey program, and you know we just always kept in the front of our minds. We had to think about Title IX compliance and, you know, equity and diversity. So, you know, we just had to look at the places that were spending the most money that weren't creating the kind of revenue we need. I mean, that sounds pretty cool, but that's just one of the decisions as a leader you just have to make.
Right, and I understand that, and I understand that it was very tough for you, especially knowing you and how much you care about the people that work with you and the students that you are involved with.
No question. It's all about student-athlete experience.
It is. So 6-7 months ago, you took the job, director of athletics there at Cornell College. I would imagine Cornell's a small school there in Iowa, and the student-athlete enrollment probably plays a huge role in the enrollment of the overall university.
Yes.
How does that scenario influence the budgetary decisions within athletics, and then the effect of those budgetary decisions on campus as a whole?
Well, you know, you make the precise point that we in the fall, student athletes made up 36% of the campus population. So, you know, it's a pretty large segment. It's a third. It's more than a third of our student body, and you know, it's critical for this campus. I think that you know, if athletics didn't exist at Cornell or at any of the schools in the Iowa Conference or the Midwest Conference, I think there'd be significant challenges to all the private institutions because student athletes make up such a large portion of the enrollment at all private institutions. So, yeah, it does play a big part. And from a budget standpoint, of course, like anywhere else, the academic aspect of the institution is so important. And, you know, Cornell is one of those top 100 elite liberal arts colleges in America, and so faculty and the kind of students that we recruit are critical. So I think athletics here, you know, I certainly would say that from a funding standpoint, I need to work hard to see how we can do things to increase funding to athletics. But part of that tie is going to be on my shoulders. I need to go out, create some sponsorship opportunities. We're in the process of developing a couple of things that would help us reduce some of the pressure on our budget. picking a vendor to help us, being specific with who we're going to use as a brand as far as apparel. And so there's a lot of challenges here, but Ty, what I have to do is look at ways to create dollars externally to help us with our budget, because the budget's pretty tight. In Anchorage, we have, in the area of $10.5 million as an operating budget, and I think that's a pretty good budget for a Division II school. Here we're probably hovering, including salaries, about $2.5 million. So, it's not, there's not a very, very large margin for error when you talk about budgeting, and, that we have a lot of work to do. So, yeah, it's pretty tough. It's a daily grind, and I am, very, very, on a daily basis, I talk with the person that manages the budget, and then our leadership team. We, in our leadership team meetings once a week, we always make sure we have room to talk about the budget. I meet with our vice president for fiscal affairs on a monthly basis. So there's a very, very, very heavy emphasis here on managing the budget, because what we have is what we have. There's not a lot of extra. So our coaches have to be expert at what they're doing with their budget dollars, because none of their budgets are huge, compared to places that I've been, but they are doing a terrific job. And I every opportunity I have, at least once a week, I talk about budget management with all of our coaches and our staff.
I'd imagine, Keith, that your relationship with the development office there, in terms of positioning athletics as an important part of development and fundraising, in terms of student athlete experience and the effect on enrollment and those type things, that's probably something you're working on, or a conversation you've had in the past 6 or 7 months. Every
day, and I have regular monthly meetings with our development, the vice president for advancement, and we're already doing some things that they haven't done here before. I have a monthly newsletter that's going out to donors. I'm working much closer with the advancement office since my arrival, and of course I see the president on a regular basis, and we always talk about what our needs are. So yeah, I think I'm communicating to the right people what our needs are and how we're going to move forward with athletics, because I'm telling you, Ty, we are champions in the class. We have outstanding student athletes, and that's a very, very high bar they have to get over to be admitted here. But we also have some terrific coaches, and we've won a couple conference championships in the fall. I think we're putting ourselves in a position to win our women's basketball conference at least have a chance to win our women's basketball championship. And we'll have to wait and see. We're tied for first right now with 4 games to go. But yeah, we're doing a lot of very, very positive things. But in order for us to make that next move, we're going to need some external dollars,
right,
and to support our program.
Right, and I'd imagine that's why they hired you there at Cornell, is because they saw the challenges you probably faced there at Alaska and how you handled yourself there, and then now they bring you on here at Cornell to help manage and lead the department through some of the fiscal challenges that they see playing out there in Iowa.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's been a great opportunity. It's a terrific campus. Mount Vernon is a terrific community situated between Iowa City and Cedar Rapids, and people are great. Campus is terrific. People have been very supportive of me, and we're just glad to be back in the Midwest, closer to family too, with grandkids in Minneapolis, my wife's family from Kansas City. So it's a great place. It's a great place for me to be in year 42 of my career.
Right. Well, Keith, I'll say one last thing here that you pointed out here that I think everybody listening, either they see it or hopefully they'll see it after I say it. It doesn't matter the size of your budget, whether you're at 10 point some odd $million or you're at 2.2 some odd $1 million, or if you're working with a $10,000 budget. You still have to be fiscally responsible, especially when it comes to the student athlete experience, when it comes to harboring the financial resources of the institution you work for. So the range doesn't matter. You're always, as a leader, you're responsible for those things.
Ty, no question. And I think you probably have conversations with people that have $125 million budgets.
Right.
And they would say the same thing. I think
same thing.
I'll close, because I know we're back to the end of this, but I'll close by this. That my job is as complex. I answer the same questions. I deal with the same issues that everybody does in the industry. Doesn't matter if it's Division I, Division II, or Division III. What's the difference is there are more zeros in their budgets, but we all have to be good fiscal managers and make sure that we're prudent and we hold people accountable.
Yep.
That's what it's all about.
That's exactly what it is. Well, Keith, this has been an excellent conversation. I actually think there's some things people can learn if they listen from it, and I want to thank you for joining me here on One Question. It's been great getting to know you. I haven't been around the whole 42 years. I've known you probably for 10 years now of that 42.
Yeah.
It's been great getting to know you, and I wish you the best of luck there at Cornell College.
Ty, thanks so much. Great talking to you, and best wishes to you, too.
That was Keith Hackett. He is the Director of Athletics at Cornell College, and this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of One Question is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.